Sanje Joda Zoge Jonamda, Chanjo Bardo Dane Yapsoshe, Dage Jinzo Yive Sonam, Tola Benjur Sanje Dubaresho, Sanje Joda Zoge Jonamda, Chanjo Bardo Dane Yapsoshe, Dage Jinzo Yive Sonam, Tola Benjur Sanje Dubaresho, Sanje Joda Zoge Chanjo Bardo Dane Yapsoshe, Dage Jinso Jebe Sonamge, Dola Penjir Sanje Dubaresho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, by my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by my accumulations to the practice of giving and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well is taught by the great seer. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum deshan tathagato hyavatat desham chayo nirodham evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum deshan tathagato hyavatat desham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum deshan tathagato hyavatat desham chayo nirodha evam bhati mahashramanaye swaha. Page 17, Hatha Sutra Mantra. Deyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Tyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha. Okay, the compassionate Buddha Shakyamuni, after achieving enlightenment, then Indra and Brahma, the kings of the celestial beings, they requested the Buddha Shakyamuni to give teachings. And in Varanasi, Sarnath, the Buddha Shakyamuni turned the first wheel of Dharma, or the Four Noble Truths, and the teaching given by the Buddha Shakyamuni, we see that broadly speaking, is given to two kinds of audience. One who seeks personal liberation, and the other who seeks Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Two audience, and but those who seek liberation, or those who seek Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings, what the Buddha taught to those who seek personal liberation, teachings, many of what, except for some aspects like the motivation and so forth, otherwise whatever is being taught to the beings who seek personal liberation, they are to be taken, or they are to be absorbed by the beings who seek Buddhahood for the benefit of sentient beings as well. So in other words, we should see the teachings in the form of steps. So when you're already there in the second step, then of course the first step is already being used there, but without the first step you cannot get to the second step. Okay, with this in mind, what we designed in the form of the practice, renunciation, bodhicitta. So renunciation is like the stepping stone on which the bodhicitta is built. So for this, the four seals of the Buddha's teaching, this is so important. 4 seals of the Buddha's teaching. These 4 teachings, it's just 4 lines, but very comprehensive, and it's very helpful as a part of practicing renunciation to use this set of the 4 lines of the practice in your daily life. That would be very helpful, because that actually the 4 seals of the Buddha's teaching, and then on the other hand the lamrim practice. Then on the other hand, what is known as the satipatthana practice, which is so commonly seen in Theravada tradition. Satipatthana practice, the 4 mindfulnesses, the practice of the 4 mindfulnesses, the practice of the 4 seals, which we're going to do here, then the practice of lamrim, then the practice of the 4 reflections according to the Sakya, Kakyu, Nyingma, and so forth. So we see that they're all boiling down to the same thing, which can all be seen in the light of the 4 seals. So after doing the 4 seals, with the 4 seals, we're going to try to get a very clear picture, solid picture as to what is the main foundation of the Buddha's teachings. Once we know this, then we'll try to relate this to the 4 mindfulnesses or the Satipatthana Sutra, and then relate this to the lamrim, relate this to the 4 reflections. So, and then that way we see that we have something concrete in the hand, and you know one thing, and then you know everything. Okay. The 4 seals, the first one is the all composite things are impermanent. All composite things are impermanent, 1. And the translations may vary. Some translations have it that all compounded things are impermanent. Compounded things, composite things, same. All composite things are impermanent. Number 2, all contaminated things are of suffering nature. All contaminated things are of suffering nature. And number 3 is everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Number 4, transcending sorrow is absolute peace. Transcending sorrow is absolute peace. And these four teachings known as the four seals of the Buddha's teaching, four seals of Buddha's teachings. And in what way we can utilize this teaching, in what way we can utilize these teachings, in what way we try to imbibe these teachings is primarily to activate our renunciation, to generate renunciation. Okay, so for this, first of all, I like to share with you as to what exactly does it mean by renunciation. Oftentimes people have mistaken ideas. Renunciation means to renounce your, say, good house, good food, good life, and so forth. This is a total misconception. It is on this basis that many people think that Buddhism is a very self-denial religion. Then they would say, oh, what are you doing? I'm into Buddhism, some kind of cult. So this is how many people have the misrepresentation of Buddhism in their mind. So they think that renunciation means to renounce good things. And oftentimes people say that, hey, don't talk about renunciation. Don't talk about Buddhism. It'll just go into renunciation. Renunciation means to renounce the good things. This is totally misconception. Okay, so from the Jambi retreat, Bodhicitta retreat, try our best, whatever we learn from Buddhism, at least whatever we learn from Buddhism, if possible, whatever we learn from anywhere else, whether Buddhism, whether science, physics, neuroscience, or arts, whatever, you must have the inquisitiveness, inquiry. We must have the spirit of inquiry. Always try to inquire. Unless you gain conviction, unless you gain confidence, keep inquiring. That is so important. So renunciation, it is not it has nothing to do with self-denial. So people misunderstand it. The basic renunciation means, say, how we come to say any center, or how you go to spiritual teacher. How do you go there? Whether you go to the Buddhist teacher, Theravada teacher, Mahayana teacher, or say the Chinese, Indian, or the Burmese, or say the Christians, or Hindus, the Muslim, Jews, it doesn't matter. Whenever you go to a teacher, say, thus far you didn't go, now you're going there. So what made you to go there? What made you go there? This is what we need to think. What made you to go there? Oh, I have so many happiness. I don't know how to discard this happiness. Right? And then you go to a teacher, please teach me how to discard my happiness. We never go there with this thought. How many of you went there? How many of you come for a retreat thinking that he will teach us how to discard our happiness? No one. So we all come to center, we all come to, say, the spiritual teachers, expecting that he or she will help, the center will help us to remove my miseries. I have miseries, right? Miseries, some have very evident miseries. Some might not have so evident, but in thought, they could foresee the miseries in the future. So these are the miseries that I am having, I will have, I had, how to get out of these miseries. So this is how we come to spirituality, right? And if the spirituality teaches you how to have more miseries, then the purpose is defeated. So the spirituality, where you turn towards, should have the capacity to elevate you, remove your miseries. So to renunciation means to renounce your miseries, not to renounce your happiness. Don't forget it. To renounce your miseries. Renunciation. This is the meaning. To renounce your miseries. Okay. Say, if you are diabetic, then you go to the doctor and ask, I'm diabetic, please help me. And what the doctor will advise you, okay, I will help you to, are you sure you want to be free from the diabetes? Answer is yes. And the doctor will say, okay, in which case temporarily stop from sugar. Right? Temporarily stop from sugar.
because this will harm you. You don't want the miseries. So likewise, renunciation is to renounce the miseries. To renounce the miseries. To renounce the miseries, we need to know Om He Dharma Hetu Prabhava. All phenomena, particularly the phenomena miseries, they arise from their respective causes. If you want to renounce the miseries, we need to know how to renounce the causes of the miseries. If we renounce the miseries, if we are to renounce the miseries, we need to know how to renounce the causes of miseries. Okay. So, the causes of the miseries, we see that, okay, the causes of miseries are from what we learned this morning and yesterday, that the miseries, the immediate cause of the miseries is contaminated karmas. Immediate cause of the miseries is contaminated karmas. And the immediate cause of the contaminated karmas is afflictions. And within the afflictions, the king of the afflictions is ignorance. Within the afflictions, the king or the chief of the afflictions is ignorance, particularly self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance. Chief of the afflictions is self-grasping ignorance. This is what we need to know. And, okay. So, if we don't want miseries, we have to cut the immediate cause of the miseries, which is contaminated karmas. If you don't want the contaminated karmas, if you want to renounce contaminated karmas, we need to know how to renounce afflictions. If you don't want afflictions, you should renounce self-grasping ignorance, right? Finally, say some people, they refrain from negativities, they refrain from negative actions. 10 non-virtuous actions. Okay, so they are doing the dharma, very good. And they renounce engaging in 10 non-virtuous actions. So this they think is renunciation. This is good. And then some people who are more thoughtful, who are deeper in reflection, they would not only renounce the afflictions, they will also renounce the negative emotions, attachment, anger, jealousy, competitiveness, and so forth. They will renounce these negative emotions. This is a much subtler version of renunciation. Then finally, the most intelligent or most learned, most intelligent, doesn't mean that some of you may be so bright, some of you may not be as bright. Okay, I'm not so as bright, so I don't fall in this category. This is not true. Even the intelligence, degree of intelligence is also acquired. We acquire this quality to the intelligence. It's not that some people are gifted and you are not gifted. That's not true, right? So it entirely depends. Everything is in your hand. If you keep learning like this, actually engaged in studies, reflection, and so forth, your intelligence is constantly being activated, right? Okay. So, then some go into to explore the deeper, the causal factors. They see that miseries come from the contaminated karmas, which in turn arise from the afflictions. And the afflictions, all afflictions, particularly the gross ones, which are so obvious in the mind, which instantly consumes our energy and drains our energy and makes us so agitated and irritated. So these gross ones, they finally boil down to self-grasping ignorance. So someone who just think of the self-grasping ignorance, finally this is my enemy. Others, they are like the subordinates of this self-grasping ignorance. If I sever this self-grasping ignorance, I don't care about others automatically disappear. That's very true. Somebody who is thinking of renouncing self-grasping ignorance, this is the subtlest version of ignorance. No, subtlest version of renunciation. Right? Someone who wants to renounce self-grasping ignorance in order to renounce your miseries. That is the subtlest version of renunciation. That is the true meaning of renunciation. That is the true meaning of renunciation. Okay, now if you turn to page 26 of the prayer book, page 26 of the prayer book. The four dharmas of Venerable Bhikshu Mahasattva. Four dharmas of Venerable Bhikshu Mahasattva. The first one, becoming frustrated with ignorance that grasps at true existence. You getting it? The first, page 26. Page 26 of the prayer book, page 26, the second last line, under the heading Four Dharmas of Venerable Bhikshu Mahasattva, you got it? Okay, it says, the first one, becoming frustrated with ignorance that grasps at true existence, which means the self-grasping, this is self-grasping ignorance that grasps at true existence. Please bless me to generate genuine renunciation, seeing all aspects of samsara as viciously repulsive. Only if we feel that, only if we come to sense that self-grasping ignorance is at the root of all the miseries, is at the root of all afflictions, all contaminant karmas and miseries, then we see that all what the ordinary beings see as nice, beautiful, attractive, and so forth, we see that there's nothing there which is really attractive. They are all equally repulsive. Right? Okay. Repulsive, meaning that anything to do with self-grasping ignorance, they are all just so trivial and so futile. Right? Okay, so that is the genuine meaning of renunciation. It says, becoming frustrated with the ignorance that grasps at true existence. Please bless me to generate genuine renunciation, seeing all aspects of samsara as viciously repulsive. And this particular line, you will understand it fully as you get closer to the understanding of emptiness. Right? Then this will make a tremendous sense to us. Okay. So now going back, say the renunciation is not to renounce your happiness, it's to renounce your miseries. Right? It's to renounce your miseries. Don't forget it. Okay. Meanwhile, a precaution, or the one observation that I like to share with you, is that finally from the 11 days we're going to learn that what exactly is what we dislike, what we don't want. So when we cannot articulate these concepts so well, we say, I don't like miseries. This is how we put things very simply. Now when we go deeper as to what miseries you don't like, what form of miseries, or in other words, what exactly does it mean by misery? This is the question, right? What exactly does it mean by misery, which you don't like? So this is what we need to explore further. For this, we see that the miseries as explained by the Buddha and the later commentators, the masters, the miseries can be seen in three forms. Right? Three forms. In other words, the truth of suffering has three kinds. What are they? Suffering of change, and pervasive conditioned suffering. suffering, suffering change, and pervasive conditioned suffering. Right? Okay. Now, it is very important for us, first of all, in the first place, to understand each of these three sufferings. Each of these three sufferings, we must learn this. One, intellectually. Then number two, in our own life, see, experientially, see that these are suffering. Right? Okay. And the first one, what is the first one? Suffering of suffering. Or some people translate this as evident suffering. Suffering of suffering or evident suffering. Evident. Which means a suffering which is so evident that even not only human beings, even the animals can easily identify them as suffering. For example, hunger is so evident. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. Even the animals, they know that when they're hungry, they feel the pain and they go around to look for food. So any pain which not only human beings, even the animals, they identify them as suffering, is known as evident suffering or suffering of suffering, the first one, right? Okay. So, in a way, the suffering of suffering, we often come to We often come to the Buddhist teachings. We often turn towards Buddhism because we feel the pain of the evident suffering, right? Okay, so this is not actually the finest version of turning towards spirituality, but this is so precious. Even that is so precious. Because we have the evident suffering. For example, say, okay, my sister, my brother, my this have this kind of the problem. Genetically, we have this problem. What should I do? And then you may not have any faith in spirituality. And then your friend says that, oh, go to ABC, there's a geshe-la who will do puja for you. And then, oh, go to TPC, there's geshe-la Yuanden. Actually, it should be geshe Yuanden la. Oftentimes people say geshe-la Yuanden, right? Okay, so the la always comes in the end. Geshe Yuanden la, right? Oh, there's geshe Yuanden la, he will do puja for you, right? And you go there to TPC, you go to ABC, and the geshe-la first talks to you about Dharma, no puja, right? And then some people, wow, it's amazing. All the miseries, they're somehow connected with our own karmas, afflictions, and ignorance. It's amazing. If I know this is real puja. If I know this and try to clear these things, this is real puja. Puja is to remove the miseries, right? Remove miseries. Wow, it's amazing. Then you become connected with Dharma. So what I'm saying is that immediate pain that we go through, oftentimes this is so helpful for us to be connected with Dharma. Although this is not the finest version of connection with the Dharma, but still this is so good. Because of this, that you'll be connected to in the most finest form later on as you grow. Right? One. Then number two is, what is it? Number two, suffering? Suffering change. Okay. Given that there are a number of us here who are already exposed to Dharma for some time, okay, let us make it a little faster, and particularly the newcomers, you try to learn these things. These are very precious piece of the Dharma and knowledge and experience. Okay, number two, the suffering of change. Okay. And as I've been constantly encouraging each one of us, that what we learn, we must make sure that we understand it. Suffering means, by the very label suffering, by the very label, the word misery or suffering, this is something which we don't like, which we feel repulsive of. So because of this, so when it says suffering change, it should have the connotation of something which we should dislike. Okay, now tell me. And anyone who can just explain what is suffering change, what suffering change means? Anyone? Very quick. Very quick. Suffering change. What does it mean by suffering change? Yes, over there, Edward.
like hot weather, we come into a aircon conditioned room, we find very good feeling. That is suffering of change.
Okay, say the good feeling, the pleasant feeling that we get in aircon after coming from a very scorching sun. From a scorching sun, when you move to an aircon room, then you feel the. So that pleasant feeling, we call as suffering of change. Okay, anyone who likes to. Very good. This is an illustration. This is an illustration example of what constitutes suffering change. My question to you, the next question is, in what way, or first, anyone who likes to share with us as to how this is suffering change? Anyone? How this pleasant feeling, the pleasant feeling that we get in this aircon room after coming from a scorching sun, how is this pleasant feeling suffering change? Anyone? Very quickly. Yes, over there. With the mic.
Divorce case?
Sorry? Yeah, I can hear you.
Loss of child, your own child.
Okay, loss of only child. Okay, loss of only child. I would say that, okay, this is what we need to learn. Loss of only child, this is very evident pain. This is evident to all of us, to everyone, even to a mother cat, mother dog, mother bird, right? Loss of child is the evident pain. Now we're talking about, say, the pleasant feeling. Okay, let me put it like this. Say, the feelings that we have, the feelings that we get in our life. Tell me, how many of you have had feelings in your life? We all have, no? We all have, right? Okay, the feelings, just tell me whether you agree with me or not. All the feelings that we went through from the time you could remember, like age, in some cases, people remember from age 2, age 3, age 4, until now, right? So all the feelings can be categorized into 3 groups. Say, the evident evidently painful are the feelings, and then the evidently happy feelings, and neutral feelings. So, we cannot point to any feeling that we went through which does not fall under any of these 3 categories. You agree with me or not? One is the evidently painful feelings. Number 2 is evidently pleasant feelings. Number 3 is neutral feelings. Not happy, not painful, neutral. So 3 feelings. Yes, no? Very good. Now, these 3 feelings which we experience, we as the samsaric beings, we experience, these 3 feelings can be classified into the 3 kinds of sufferings. Right? So the evident suffering, evident pain that we go through, the experience of feeling, the experience of the painful, the feelings which we go through, they all fall under the category of suffering. The first one. Right? And all the pleasant feelings that we went through, we the ordinary beings, all the pleasant feelings that we went through, we are going through, we will go through, they all fall under the category of suffering with change. Or particularly the beginners, you keep this in mind, that all the pleasant feelings, all the ordinary, mundane, pleasant feelings that we go through, they all fall under the category of suffering with change. Then the neutral feelings, they all go under the category of the suffering of pervasive, conditioned suffering. You're getting it? These 3 feelings can be put under the category of the 3 kinds of suffering. Okay, now, is there anyone, particularly those people who are already exposed to Dharma for some time, you just speak your mind, and it may not be 100% correct. You don't have to be worried about that, right? Okay, just speak your mind, that we will come to know. Okay, the suffering of change. So the example which Edward gave, the pleasant feeling we get after coming from a scorching sun, that pleasant feeling falls under the category of which suffering? Suffering of change. Okay, anyone who likes to explain how that falls under the category of suffering of change? Yes, over there.
I try. Geshe-la, so the reason why it's called suffering of change from the experience of having to enter an air conditioning room after a hot day is because this particular feeling, pleasant feeling, is not stable. Eventually, it will change into an unpleasant feeling, which causes discomfort to us. Like if you stay in the air conditioning room for a longer time, you have to put on your sweater because you feel cold. So in that sense, this is the suffering of change.
Okay, so the feeling of the pleasant feeling that we get, if we're exposed to this for too long, right? For too long, then we'll start feeling cold, right? Feeling cold. So what earlier was seen as pleasant feeling, now it changes to feeling of pain of cold. So this is the suffering of change. Okay, my next question. So this is very good. My next question. How is this pleasant feeling suffering? Right? You already explained suffering of change. Now, I'm more precisely asking, how is this suffering? This question. Suffering means something which we dislike, right? Okay, Perry.
My thinking is change a condition. When the condition change, so that is part of suffering of change. When the condition change, for example, if from rich to poor, or from poor to rich, and there's change of condition.
Okay, due to the change of condition, then the situation changes from the very pleasant feeling of being an icon, then acorn, it changes to feeling of the pain of cold, right? Okay, so this is because of the change of condition. Then what was experienced as happiness or the pleasant feeling changes to the unpleasant feeling. Good. So that I would say, I don't know whether I got it correctly, I would say that this is explaining how the change is happening. The change is happening because of the change in the factors, change in the conditions, right? So my question is, this very pleasant feeling, without excluding the change, excluding the next moment of the feeling of the cold, keeping that aside, just pick up that small piece of the happiness, the pleasant feeling. How is this suffering? This is my question. Anyone? Okay, the one behind, which end? Yes.
I think it's all humankind, we only want happiness and we dislike suffering.
So now the question is, this pleasant feeling that we get in this aircon after coming from the scorching sun, right? So this pleasant feeling per se, we don't connect this with the next moment of the cold feeling. Just the pleasant feeling. How is this suffering? This is my question.
It doesn't last forever.
It doesn't last for?
It doesn't last forever. This happiness is very short term, it's very impermanent.
Okay, that is true. This is more pertaining to the change, suffering of change, right? Suffering change. How is it suffering change? Because it changes to miseries, evident suffering later, right? My question is, I'm not even talking about suffering change. I'm talking about the suffering per se. How this feeling of how this pleasant feeling is suffering, right? Okay, I see Zoe.
A similar answer is to never be separated from happiness.
Say it again.
We all want to be never to be separated from happiness.
Yes.
So when we go through the change, there's a suffering by itself. It's not
When it
just
changes, there's suffering, no doubt. But when you have it, then what's the problem? Okay.
because it doesn't last.
Okay, it doesn't last. Okay. Yes, Vinita. Thank you, Christine. Yes, Vinita.
Geshe-la, it's just a guess. But does it have something to do with attachment?
Yes, very good.
So I'm thinking in terms of it is invoking the desire of attachment. It's to do with attachment at the
Very good, very good.
fundamental level.
Very good. A neat little articulation is very good answer. Okay, which hand?
I think if we only experience unpleasant feelings or suffering, we will not want to stay in samsara for even a moment longer. But because
Say it again.
we will not even want to stay in samsara for even a moment longer if we only have unpleasant feelings.
If you only have the pleasant feelings, then
Unpleasant feelings. So,
Unpleasant
but
feel-
because we still have pleasant feelings, we still see some good in samsara because we still have mundane happiness to chase after. Therefore, we are stuck in samsara. So, the suffering of change is the bait that keeps us in samsara.
very good, very good. Okay, say yes, Christian. You want to add something?
I was just going to say, from my personal experience, even our like afflicted minds, we're incapable of experiencing happiness. Like even when we feel happiness, our minds, maybe for a second we feel happy, and then our mind starts playing stories. Oh, how can I get more of this pleasant feeling? Like, you know, we start making plans. Oh, I need more of this. How can I get more? How about when this pleasant feeling runs out, how can I get the next pleasant feeling? So we don't even enjoy the pleasant feeling that we have now. We're already thinking about the future, like what happens when this runs out, how can I get more?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, very good. That's very true to a great extent. We even do we have a good physical health. You take for granted of our physical health, and then we just exert ourselves overly, right? And then finally, when we're sick, then we want, if I'm healthy, you were already healthy long time ago, and you neglected. Now you don't have the health, and then you are craving for the good health. So this is our ignorance. That's very true. So the question, okay, this one. So let's see. It may not be just one answer. They could be asked many answers. For example, what Krishna gave, what say in Zohi, what over there, right? You listen to all these things and then see which makes, say, more sense to you. Of course, everything will help us to solidify, to concretize our understanding. So one is, say, to be very direct, how is this suffering, this question? So let's say, let me give an example of, say, a real life example. Real life example. There is one person. There's one person. It was a real thing, a real, what do you call it? Real incident. One person, and the person was living in a terribly bad, say, the house. It's like a tin shed, and no running water, no rest, no attached bathroom, right? No running water, and the roof leaking, right? And it's just tin shade, and it lies at just a very steep slope somewhere there, and in the winters you can easily slip, right? You can fall easily, and this person had been living there for a few years, and this place was not owned by that person. It was on rent. The person was living there on rent, but very cheap rent. Then the person got, say, offer from one of the relatives to stay in a good house where there's running water, and I think one big room and the kitchen and the bathroom, all they're self-contained, and no, the roof is intact. It's a proper house with the good, the light source and so forth. And the person already got it. The person was already got that. Person can easily move there, and the person never moved. And I personally asked the person, "Why are you not moving? The room is there for you. And why should you suffer?" And the person's already very old, in 70s, and not moving. And then imagine what answer I got. Answer that I got was that if I leave, then I have to give up this house. I have to give up this house, and I'm getting this house for very cheap. The room rent, the house rent is very cheap. So I'll lose this. Feeling attached to what? Very trivial feeling of illusory enjoyment, that I'm getting this for very cheap, I'm so lucky. That feeling is letting the person suffer in this house. That feeling, right? The person need not have to stay there. It's getting much better house. Why is this person suffering there? Why is this person suffering there? And the other house was for free. No room rent. It was for free. The good one was for free. And this one, the person had to pay money. Still cannot go out, cannot leave this house. Because there is incredible, tiny, insignificant incentive. What is that incentive? I'm getting a room for very cheap rent. This incentive traps the person to suffer constantly. Already 70 years old, and in the winters terribly cold, and in the night to relieve oneself, you have to go out in the night, terribly cold, and it's very steep slope. So this suffering, all this suffering is because of what? Because of being attached to this very insignificant illusory joy that I'm getting this house for a cheap rent, right? Likewise, we see that all the happiness that we get in samsara, they are like this very insignificant thing which traps us in samsara. Okay, if you think carefully, say, since our birth, particularly since the time of the time we could remember, age 3, 4, 5, until now, so up to this point, tell me, if you calculate the pains that we went through and the happiness that we went through, if you calculate the two, if you see which of the two supersedes the other. And now this is not the full story. So from there, again, we have to go to the future. So some of you are in your, okay, Andrew, how old are you? 25. 25? Okay, anyone who's younger than 25? 24. Anyone younger than 24? 21. Okay, anyone younger than 21? Okay, let's say up to 21 years of experience of life, 21 years of experience of life, 24 years of experience of life, 25 years of experience of life, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years experience of life. Now this is not the full story. From here you have to go to the future. And the future, our body keeps declining, right? Our body keeps declining, and then we're going to meet with more and more challenges, sickness, aging, death, all these things are waiting for us, right? Now, if you include all these things together, tell me, suffering that we went through, in the ordinary parlance, the suffering that we go through and the happiness that we go through, which overrides the other? Suffering overrides the other. Very simple. Say, one moment of misery that we go through, one moment of misery. For example, say, losing a very near and dear one. One moment, just one moment of this pain of losing the near and dear ones, that is good enough. That is good enough to nullify all our experiences of happiness in our life. That is good enough. One moment of happiness is good. One moment of the pain that we go through, losing a near and dear ones, is good enough to nullify all the experiences of happiness that we went through in our life. If somebody is given a choice, okay, till this, say you're already 30 years old, you're already 40 years old, you're already this years of old, you've experienced many moments of happiness, and then tomorrow you will have the experience of the pain of losing a very, 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 very dear one, right? So this scenario, you choose this, or you choose another scenario where there's no happiness at all, and then you don't have to go through this pain also. If you're given a choice, which will you choose? You will surely choose the second one, right? You will surely choose the second one. Because one moment of this acute pain is good enough to simply erase all the moments of the happiness that we went through in the past. Okay, now from this we see that overall, the life, particularly we think of the acute pains, sickness, aging, death, right? We think of these, the pains are so acute, pains are so acute, pains are so acute. Now with this, we see that when will this stop then? Sickness, aging, death, the pain of losing near and dear ones, and say the anxiety, stress, tension, depression, so forth. When will that stop altogether, right? Okay, after that, then it will stop. No, the mind continues, the self continues to the next life. Again, the drama of miseries that we went through in this life is going to be repeated in the next life. It's going to be endlessly played over and over again, endlessly played over and over again, unless we do something. Unless we do something, it will endlessly be played over and over again, right? In fact, I could so well remember once somebody in Switzerland, a Tibetan family, somebody in Switzerland, they sent the whole family sent believe it or not, handful of gold rings, gold earrings, the finger rings and gold necklace and so forth. Just handful, which can just go into my hand like this. And this was sent from Switzerland to their nephew, who in turn passed it over to me to be handed over to as offering to His Holiness. And just tell me, guess what? Where was this coming from? This gold necklace, gold rings, gold earrings, gold finger rings, all these things, they're coming from where? Right? Huh? Yes, the person who passed away, right? So literally, when I got this in my hand, I could hear the sound of a dead person. Literal meaning that I could feel this is just symbolic. It's just nothing. It is just telling me the impermanence of death. Impermanence of death. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, these pieces, they were being treasured, put in the what? Huh? Safe, right? With the key somewhere, making sure that it doesn't disappear. Now everything's exposed in the hand of unknown person, right? Who is going to go to His Holiness to make requests, to ask for prayers. Please pray for this person who once owned this. This is the story. This is our biography, right? This is our biography. And so the younger ones, if they live long, maybe after like 40, 50 or 60 years, they will say, 160 years ago, 2000 something what? 2000 something, I think in Indonesia, Bali or the Jambi, I'm not too sure, right? So there we had the retreat. How many days? Oh no, I forgot. It's a long time ago. So there was the teacher. He taught about like this. Oh, that's very true. Now I'm already 70 years old. I'm already 80 years old, right? Now all these people, most of them already gone. one day it will surely happen like this. One day it will happen like this, right? So this is the life story. This is our biography. This is our biography. So with this, we see that, we think of this. If this thing, which is so painful, if this thing were to repeat endlessly, fortunately in this life, we took birth as a human being. Not only human being, we met with Dharma. Not only met with Dharma, met with the minor teachings, so precious, right? But how can we guarantee that in the next life, next life, and then 100 lives later, 1,000 lives later, that we are going to take birth as a human being, that we're going to meet with Dharma, that we're going to meet with the minor teaching? Who can say this? Who can say this? And then where? We never know. We keep on accumulating negative karmas. We keep on suffering terribly. Just imagine in the hands of the terrorist. They can't even imagine what the next moment is going to be like, what the next minute is going to be like. They have no clue in the hands of the terrorists. And then in the hands of the KFC, the poor chickens, the poor animals, they have no clue what happened to them the very next moment. The throat slit, right? So we never know when we will not take birth like these situations. We never know. So that way, it is so important for us to think about leaving this samsara altogether. So where, this samsara, where all these things are happening in cycle, we just run out of it altogether, so that we don't have to go through this process anymore. Right? Okay. Now for this, but if someone is the victim of the terrorism, in the hands of the terrorists, then the person is in prison, that there is the terrorist who's forcing the person to be in prison. But who forces us to be in samsara? Is there a lot of death waiting outside in the space? You are about to get out and then they put you down? Is there anyone like this? No. Then there must be some agent which traps us, which makes us to suffer continuously. So what is that agent? Right? We like what? We like happiness. There must be some happiness in this vicious place of samsara, which is a temptation, which lures us. There must be something there, without which we will not be here. If 24/7 there's continuous torture, suffering, sickness, aging, no happiness at all, then we will think very seriously, and most of the people in the world by now should be arahats or the bodhisattvas. The fact that arahats and bodhisattvas are so rare to see is because we have been lured by something. What is that? Lured by something. So what lures us to make us suffer terribly, is that something good or bad? That is bad. Bad means we don't like. What we don't like is suffering. So therefore, what seems as happiness is actually a bait. It's actually a source of suffering. It's actually something we should be disliking. Okay. Now in this connection, what Vinita said, I like to relate this to what Vinita said, that now the pleasant feelings. That's the pleasant feelings. Oh, should we run away from these pleasant feelings? This is a question, right? Okay. So, say these, no doubt they lure us. Lure means, how is there a threat between the pleasant object and you? Their threat, the threat is pulling you like this. There's no threat. What attracts you there? Some agent inside. What is that agent which pulls us there? Attachment. You are getting it? Attachment. So, the pleasant feeling, this serves as the bait. And what attracts you to the bait is your attachment to this bait. So what is inside? Right? So now, therefore, if we are to really renounce, say, when we are so weak, say, you have the broken arm. You have a broken arm, and if it is so freshly broken, and just a mere touch will hurt you, then should you go to a crowd? No, because the crowd per se is not bad, But when this comes in contact with the crowd, then it becomes bad. That affects you. Whereas if you are very prudent, if you are very careful, and it is healed to a great extent, 80% healed, and you can be very prudent and tremendous care, then with this you can go there. The crowd may not affect you, right? So likewise, if the attachment is cut, then the good things, there's no problem. Good things, there's no problem. So renunciation does not mean to renounce the happiness, renounce the pleasant feelings, but to renounce the attachment to the pleasant feelings, right? And how to renounce the pleasant feeling, the attachment to the pleasant feelings, is renouncing the causes of the pleasant feelings. And what is cause of pleasant? Causes of the attachment. How to renounce attachment is by renouncing the causes of the attachment. And what is the cause of the attachment? Finally, we see the self-grasping ignorance. It's amazing. So, even to meet with this dharma of the emptiness concept, identifying the self-grasping ignorance as responsible for all the miseries, right? Even to meet with this dharma is so precious, so precious. Okay, let me give you a quick example. Let's say, okay, there's this beautiful bunch of flowers here, very beautiful bunch of flowers here. You will see this. Okay. Now when you look at this, with your closed eyes, then you look at this, what happens, there's a perception taking place. Perception of a beautiful flowers. So this perception then transpires into your emotional experience. What is your emotional reaction? Feeling of appeal, right? Feeling of appeal comes to you. Oh wow, it's so beautiful flower. A feeling of appeal. Now, if suddenly me not pulling these flowers, just a flower disappears on its own. The flower disappears on its own like the spooky flowers, right? Say suddenly the flower disappears. What happens to your emotional reaction of attraction? What happens? It stops instantly because the object disappears. You're getting it? Object disappears. Now, we see that this attachment is because you see the object there. You see the object there. Now, when the object disappears, attachment instantly stops. You're getting it? When the object disappears, attachment instantly stops. Now, when you look at the same object, when you see the object is so solidly there from the object, so solidly there, what happens? Your mind reacts in the form of attachment. So this particularly attractive object. Now, what happens is that when you see this in the light of the atoms, let's say, in the light of millions of atoms, if you see this in the light of, say, you have eyesight which is as powerful as the electron microscope. You see this not as a flower, but as millions of atoms. What is your emotional reaction? Neutral. Earlier attachment stops. Object does not change. What changes? Your perception changes. Your perception changes, and because of the change of the perception, your emotional reaction changes. So, it stops you from attachment. Your attachment stops. Right? Now, why say when the object is attractive, then the attachment arises. When the object is unattractive, aversion arises. Aversion and attachment, these two are nothing but involuntary pull and involuntary push. Right? Attachment is involuntary pull. Aversion is involuntary push. If somebody forces you to be pulled towards, say, a fire, is this pleasant or unpleasant? It's very unpleasant because the person is forcing you, right? And person forces you to run away from chocolate, right? Again, it's the person's forcing you. You don't have the freedom. So involuntary pull and involuntary push has a connotation of loss of freedom. You're getting it? Involuntary pull and involuntary pull. You're not getting there on your own. You're not running away on your own. Object decides whether you should be drawn towards it or drawn away from object. Object decides, not you. Right? So this is known as involuntary pull and involuntary push. If there's involuntary pull and push, this is known as loss of freedom. You don't have the freedom. Say it is like somebody grabbing you from your shirt and then pull and push like this. Is this freedom or lack of freedom? You will say that there's no human rights. Right? You will complain the human rights problem, right? Okay, why? Because you don't want to do like this. You don't want to do like this. The person is forcefully pushing you and pulling you like this. Likewise, all the attractive objects, all the undesirable objects, what they do is exactly what the bossy, the person who is the what? What do you call these people? Who are so rude, right? They use the force to push and pull like this. When that happens, then all these objects, what we consider as attractive, unattractive, they are either pulling you or pushing you. When they pull and push, you have lost your freedom. Loss of freedom is miseries. You're getting it? Now, when you see that, say for example, suddenly there is the vision of a ghost. Vision of a ghost here, and you cannot run away now. There's a wall behind you, you can run away. You see the vision of the ghost, very undesirable ghost there. What is the emotional reaction? Fear, right? Fear. And then it's coming closer towards you. What happens? The fear increases. And suddenly the vision disappears. What happens to you? Relief comes to you. You're getting it? Earlier fear dissolves. So now, when you see the object does not exist, all your emotional reactions, involuntary pull and push stops. Right? When the involuntary pull and push stops, they say loss of freedom stops. You gain your freedom. So then your mind for the first time finds rest. Right? Wow. Okay, so this final rest of your mind, which do you prefer? Rest or involuntary pull and push? Which do you prefer? The rest, right? We want rest. Okay, so the mind finds rest only at that point when the involuntary pull and push stops. Involuntary push and pull will stop only if you realize emptiness directly. Right? Only if you realize emptiness directly. Okay, now as we go into the explanation of the emptiness, then from there we'll come to know that, oh, this is so precious. Only with the experience of emptiness, then the involuntary pull and push stops. Only with the experience of emptiness, we can renounce the involuntary pull and push. Right? This is the real renunciation. The real renunciation comes to its fruition with the experience of emptiness. Okay, those of us here, new beginners, don't worry too much. Right? Don't worry too much. We are going to the technicalities a little bit, just to prepare you for the actual teaching on emptiness. Right? Okay. Tell me how many of you are the beginners? Okay, quite a number of. See how? Okay, those who think that I'm always beginner, keep down your hands. Right? Those who are the real beginners, raise your hands. Real beginners. Okay, so the beginners, what I would say is that the fact that you're with others, we are all very fortunate. And even those who are already exposed to Dharma for some time, you're also very fortunate to have the beginners, because they can come up with any questions which you may not be ready, right? And that way you will grow. Okay, so there's a mutuality of benefit. Okay, so with this, right, this is just a little bit of exposure. Those of us more beginner to this, don't worry. So we will go through this, and in fact, I'm so happy to get feedback from so many people, saying that having attended the Bali retreat and having attended the earlier teachings, because of those exposures, now today we could understand much more clearly. This is very true. So therefore what I would say is that the newcomers, I would very much encourage you to continue, and if possible, try to attend teachings in TBC, ABC, right? On these places, I would very much suggest you to take part in those teachings from those, We are very fortunate that we have these centers, we have the geshe-las there. So the Singaporeans are very fortunate. In fact, in India, where His Holiness the Dalai Lama lives, where all the great, great giants of the philosophy, the logic and the practice, they live, but there are places in India, big, big cities, where they don't have any teachers there. So from that point of view, Singapore, you are very fortunate, right? On the one hand, the land is very small. You can go anywhere more easily, relatively, right? So, and then there are a number of centers there. Particularly, I know more closely of the TBC and ABC. So these two are there, and both are so active in their teaching. You are very fortunate. So what we suggest is, but those who are already going there, well and good. Those who are the newcomers, beginners, make sure that you attend those teachings there. That is so helpful for your own good. Okay. So this is a quick, the overview of what the benefit of emptiness is. What we learned is, okay, if we can learn that involuntary pull and push is misery, right? You agree with me? Right? Involuntary pull and push is loss of freedom. Involuntary pull and push is loss of freedom. Loss of freedom is misery. Misery is samsara. Right? This we have to know. Involuntary pull and push is loss of freedom. Loss of freedom is misery. Misery is samsara. Right? We just phrase it like this. That would be very helpful. Okay. Now involuntary pull and push. Involuntary pull and push. Okay. Say. Okay. Let's say. What is my left hand? A flower, a beautiful flower, right? Okay. What is your emotional reaction? Oh, very appealing, right? What is my right hand? Nothing is there. Imagine a beautiful pink flower. Imagine a beautiful pink flower. Okay, now what is your emotional reaction? Okay, now tell me, what is my left hand? Yellow flower. What is my right hand? Okay, so those people who got the correct answer, they are from master's course. I know that. All right. Okay. Some people say that in your right hand is a pink flower. There's no pink flower. Actually, it's empty. It's imaginary pink flower, right? Imaginary pink flower. Okay. Now tell me, which is more beautiful? Okay. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this flower. Look at this yellow flower. Okay, look at this flower, pink flower. If you're seriously looking at it, it is time for you to go to mental hospital. If you seriously look at this, like this, it's fine, you're normal. You look at the imaginary flower, you seriously look at it, it's time for you to go to mental hospital, right? So there's nothing there in my right hand which will pull you or push you. There's nothing there. Whereas there is something there which pulls you or pushes you, right? Okay. So now we see that when we see emptiness, it is not that the whole world will stop operating. Right? When you see emptiness, right? Somebody sits into samadhi, then sees the emptiness of all phenomena, the whole Singapore stops. All the factories, the road, traffic, everything stops. No, everything will operate as normal, right? Nothing will stop there. What stops is our misconception of the world stops. The world will continue to operate. Don't forget it, right? Anyway, the more detailed explanation we'll do later. So from this, what we have learned thus far, it may not have been still very so clear. Don't worry, right? Thus far is that all our miseries, they are created by the contaminated karmas, which in turn are created by, all our miseries are created by contaminated karmas, and contaminated karmas are created by afflictions, and afflictions arise from ignorance, self-grasping ignorance. This we have to know. We have to know these things. Okay, so Wenla, do you remember the stanza about the Oh, 217. 217. Yes, wow, it's amazing. Okay, 217. Page 217, stanza 2. Stanza 2 by Aranigarjuna's Mula Madhyama Karika, Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. Through ceasing karma and afflictions, nirvana is achieved. Karma and afflictions arise from distorted conceptions. These arise from elaborations of grasping at true existence, and elaborations cease by or into emptiness. Okay, this stanza is so important. If possible, try to memorize this. This is so important. And oftentimes His Holiness gives teachings on the basis of this stanza, right? Okay. So from this stanza will tell us how we are trapped in samsara and how we can possibly get out of samsara. Both ways is taught here, right? The first, how we are trapped in samsara. For this we need to know 5 points. How we are trapped in samsara, for this we need to know 5 points as indicated in this text. This is so precious, right? Okay, 5 points. 1, it says, through ceasing karma and afflictions, nirvana is achieved. What is nirvana? Nirvana is the absolute peace. What is the opposite of nirvana? Samsara. So the first point that we need to keep in mind is samsara. Samsara it simply means the miseries that we go through, the experience of miseries and everything connected with miseries, that is samsara, right? And later on, we should, I don't know whether during this 11 days, but for sure, what we are learning the next 11 days, from there we have to progress our learning further to the extent that we should get a very clear picture of what exactly is samsara, what exactly is nirvana, what exactly is afflictive obscurations, what exactly is afflictions, what exactly is cognitive obscurations, what exactly is Buddhahood. So these we should get a very clear conviction after, say, after this 11 days, and maybe build on this later on. Okay, so samsara is point number 1. And what's the immediate cause of samsara, all these undesirable experiences, is the contaminated karmas. It says, through ceasing karma and afflictions, nirvana is achieved. Opposite of nirvana is samsara, and the immediate cause of samsara is contaminated karmas, and the immediate cause of contaminated karmas is afflictions. You are getting it, 3 points there. Then the karma and afflictions arise from distorted conceptions. So this we call, the technical term is inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention, this is number 4. Inappropriate attention, which is line 2, common afflictions arise from distorted conceptions. Distorted conceptions, this is technically known as inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention, distorted conceptions. Did you find it? Okay, this concept. Now, inappropriate attention arises from self-grasping ignorance. Here it says, and the elaborations, these referring to the inappropriate attention, arise from elaborations of grasping at true existence. Elaborations here referring to the self-grasping ignorance. Okay, now tell me, what are the 5 points you share with me from the final result to the ultimate cause? Final result is what? Samsara. And what is the immediate cause of samsara? Contaminated karmas. What is the immediate cause of contaminated karmas? Afflictions. What is the immediate cause of afflictions? Inappropriate attention. And what is the immediate cause of inappropriate attention? self-grasping ignorance. Okay, this we have to know. We have to learn. So, the beginners, you don't think that this is something very technical. Just try to know these points. Once you know these points, later on when we elaborate on each of these points, it becomes so easy for you, right? So just know these 5 points. One is samsara. Then the next one is contaminated karmas. Next one is afflictions. Next one is inappropriate attention. And finally is what? The self-grasping ignorance. Okay. I'm going to quickly explain. What these 5 points are. What these 5 points are with the help of the example. Okay. Okay. Say, let's say that we're all dreaming. We're all dreaming and okay. Or okay, that's good. Or we're all dreaming, and then say I raised. We all what? We all dreaming, and then I raised something like this. I raised something like this, and you think that I am promoting iPhone 8 Plus, right? You think that I'm promoting iPhone 8 Plus, and this is nothing. Actually, this is your dream. You're getting it, but you don't realize that you're dreaming. I picked this up, and then, okay, then Vishen said that Geshe-la will not keep iPhone 8 Plus, right? He will surely exchange this with my iPhone 5 Plus, iPhone 5S, right? So then Vela said, no, I already told Geshe-la before, right? He's going to exchange this with mine one. And then 2 of them will have fight. And because 2 of them have fight, right? Then the Singapore policeman came, and 2 of them are all taken to prison. And prison is not a good place to live in, right? Prison is samsara. So why did you end up in prison? Why did you end up in prison? And your mother was both of you are so kind, both of you are so nice people. How come that you are in prison? Then what's the answer? Prison is not a nice place. How did you come to prison? How did you end up in prison? Because we had a fist fight. Fist fight is action, physical action. It's not a nice physical action, it's a bad physical action, therefore it is a contaminated action, contaminated karma, right? And what made you have fight? You are so kind, you are 2 good friends. What made you fight? Because I feel attached to the mobile, right? And I feel angry towards him because he's fighting for this. Right? He's trying to take it away from me. I feel angry towards him, I feel attached to the mobile. Okay, aversion and attachment. This is affliction. Mental disturbance, mental emotion, the presence of which disturbs you. And triggers contaminated action of fight. Right? Corruption, fight, all these unhealthy actions, physical, verbal and mental actions were triggered by these mental emotion, destructive mental emotion known as afflictions. And what made you have this affliction? What made you have this attachment to this mobile? Because that mobile is not yet launched. This is the latest what do you call it? Brand. Model. Latest model. This is the latest model, right? iPhone 8 Plus. Right? Okay. And actually there's no iPhone 8 Plus there, right? He had no clue. About iPhone 8 Plus, right? But he was holding something in his hand, and I thought it was the iPhone 8 Plus, right? So then you see that he was holding something, and I thought it was the mobile, and not only mobile, but iPhone 8 Plus. Then you come to check with me, and actually I was just picking up a picture of iPhone 8 Plus. You're getting it? So, how it started, how all these things started. First, I pick up a picture of iPhone 8 Plus, and then you see that as a that is a real mobile, one mobile. Then you exaggerate this mobile as iPhone 8 Plus. Exaggeration happens. First you exaggerate the object. Piece of paper, you exaggerate that as a mobile. And mobile can be very old style mobile and a brand new model mobile, right? So first you exaggerate the object as mobile. Number two, you exaggerate the quality of this. Very expensive mobile, number two. Then number three, what happens? You feel attached to it. Affliction. Then number four would be, we fight on the basis of this karma. Then number five, what happens? Hey, number five. Yes, then you end up in prison, which is not a nice place. That is samsara, right? So 5 points. This exactly what is happening to us. Are we in samsara or we are in nirvana? We're in samsara, right? So what brought us to samsara is because of the contaminated karmas, right? What made us to engage in this contaminated karma? Who did that for you? Who did all these negative contaminated karmas for you? Your father or your mother or your uncle or auntie? No, it's you. Each one of us. Each one of us engaged in these contaminated karmas. And what made you end up in these contaminated karmas? Because of our own afflictive emotions, attachment, anger, jealousy, and so forth. And what made you have these emotions, contaminated emotions, the afflictive emotions, is because of the exaggeration of the qualities of the objects. Exaggeration of the qualities of the object, which is also referred to as the inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention means exaggerating the qualities of the object, right? Exaggerating the qualities of the object. Okay. And what made you exaggerate the qualities of the object? Because I exaggerated the object itself. Object, right? Okay. Now, how will all these things stop? How will the chain of the causation will stop? One is, the best way is, wake up. Wake up. Oh, it's just my dream, right? Then you will stop exaggerating the dream mobile as a dream paper mobile as a real mobile. You'll stop exaggerating that. And then you will not exaggerate that as a iPhone 8 Plus, right? And then you will not feel attached to the dream mobile. And then you will not fight. You'll stop fighting. Because you stop fighting, why should you have to go to the prison, right? You stop going to the prison. This is how we cut ourselves, we stop ourselves from taking birth in samsara. Okay, so this is just a quick overview. Don't worry, this is the main thing that we have to go through over and over again the next 11 days. Don't worry, right? Okay, now with this, okay, before we break for the tea break, I'd like to quickly say the 4 seals. The 4 seals going back. The 4 seals, the 4 lines. 4 seals of the Buddha's teaching is just 4 lines. All composite, you already wrote that. All composite things are impermanent. What next? All contaminated things are suffering nature. Number 3, everything is of the nature of emptiness and selflessness. Number 4, transcending sorrow is absolute peace. Okay. Now, these 4 teachings are known as the 4 seals of the Buddha's teaching. Seals means stamp. Stamp. Why these 4 teachings are known as the 4 seals or the stamp? Because if the government stamps a house, what does it mean? Any idea? If a government stamps a house, means? Okay, say there's a conflict, to make it clearer. There's a conflict between, say, 2 people about the house, and the government says that nobody should touch it, then seals the house. Right? What is the meaning? Hey, I've already given the clue. There's a conflict between 2 people about a house, the ownership of the house, right? And the government says that, okay, both of you don't fight, stop, go away, so we will seal this house. Don't touch this house, right? Which means the house, What? It belongs to the government, I say. Okay, right. Now I'll give you more clue. Otherwise, I agree with you. Yeah, this is another possibility. They say, you resolve the problem yourself, you come to a good conclusion, only then you can go. Otherwise, you don't touch, then seal. What does it mean? No? Unless the government comes to break the seal, nobody's allowed to touch this house. You're getting it? So the Buddha said that these 4 teachings, say, the Buddha Shakyamuni, we are so fortunate. He's so practical. He's so practical in his teachings. Say, for example, the Buddha. The Buddha said the monks not supposed to be eating after midday, right? This is the rule. Then situation arises where the monk is sick, or the staff of the community staff, where the person has lots of work to do. 2. Number 3, traveling. Under such situations, the Buddha said, you should eat after midday, right? So some people have this feeling that, oh, the monk shouldn't be eating, then even if the monk is dying, still not eating, was his rule. The Buddha is not at all rigid, right? So these are clear indication that the person does not know the teachings of the Buddha pertaining to his, say, the approach of the reality, his practicality. So this is the beauty and the strength of the Buddha's teachings. So adaptable. And the Buddha very clearly said that, and the Buddha, before the Buddha assumed passing away, then his students, like Ananda and so forth, then they made the request to Buddha Shakyamuni. So in future, if there are situations which never occurred at the time of the Buddha, then how should we take decisions? So the Buddha made it very clear, don't worry. Any new situations arise, if they tally with what I have forbidden earlier, just discard those things. They are not to be done. So those situations which arise in the future, if they tally with what I allowed, you can engage in these things, no worry. So he gave such a broad teaching. Particularly, the Buddha himself asked the monks as to, now, any teaching you want to receive from me, the Buddha asked, and they made this request to the Buddha, and the Buddha made a clarification. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that amongst the Buddha's teachings, there are a number of the teachings which the Buddha made it very clear that many of my teachings can be modified according to the change in time, according to change in place, according to the change in the people, right? Whereas these 4 lines, no modification, they are sealed. Saying that as long as somebody wants to get out of samsara, these 4 teachings hold true at all places, at all times, with all people. This teaching holds true. So no one can alter this teaching. As long as somebody wants to be freed from samsara, these 4 teachings should be practiced, without which no freedom from samsara is possible. So therefore it is like being sealed by the Buddha. Right? Okay. So now the more detail, we'll do this second session. Okay, we'll stop here with 3 prostrations.